Brought to you by Briones Consulting Group. Prepare, plan, rebuild. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel if you're enjoying this content. Alright, so this video is part of our Year 1 series where we just go through educational things associated with being a new business owner that some may or may not be aware of. Um, we are talking about 5 steps to developing KPIs. I decided to do this video because I've been actually getting an uptick of clients lately that have no idea what's going on in their business. They're plucking along. Some are making money, some are not making as much. And when I pose the question on how are you tracking what is working or what is not, many of them don't understand how to do this. So for their lack of understanding becomes the benefit of the audience of this channel, and I am now creating a video to kind of walk you through what KPIs are and how to create some. All right, so let's get started with what is a KPI. KPI stands for Key Performance Indicator. These are measurable values that show how effectively you are at achieving objectives. All right, they are quantifiable measures. All right, so essentially they are data sets that you're going to do some calculations with that will tell you if a particular campaign is working or not, or if, what if you are seeing an increase in your revenue or if your margins are better, like what is actually leading up to that. All right, because whether you understand this or not, what gets measured gets done. So this is why we want to create KPIs. It holds ourselves, our business, and our staff accountable, because if you are creating proper KPIs, part of your accountability process, which I've talked about in other videos, would be having your staff, the people responsible, actually bring you the data that that's supposed to justify what they're doing. All right. It will also allow you to track the progress of specific campaigns. So let's say you are running a campaign that, it's a new service packaging offer, um, that you that you're doing it maybe for reduced price, or you're adding additional value to what the client gets. You want to know if this is effective or if it's being well received. Creating a set of KPIs for a fixed time frame will actually allow you to see what is working and if it's not working. It could be the best package in the world, but if it doesn't sell, it's useless. You know, and at the end, once you have the data sets, you can evaluate whether to continue with it, or you can maybe make adjustments in your messaging so that it becomes a little bit more successful. All right, so what is it that we're tracking? We're basically tracking lead and lag measures. These, you know, lead measures are kind of what they sound like. They are predictive. They lead up to a certain end goal. And your lag measures are the output measurements, basically stuff that's happened or happening regardless of what's coming up to it. Like for an example of your lead measures would be the number of sales calls you're doing, or the amount or the frequency of client satisfaction checks, for existing clients. And the lag measures would be the output, like what happens as a result of doing this. So is your revenue increasing or decreasing? Are you making more or less profits? These are the results. So you lead up to a certain point, and then the lag, which means it's what's already happened, is what's going to it's things like your revenue and your profits. So essentially, you're going to use your lead measurements to predict the outcome of your lag measurements. All right, so now that we have a little bit of an understanding of this, let's talk about what actually needs to happen to create your KPIs. All right, so for number one, we got to set our goals and objectives. once we understand what we're trying to measure or what we're trying to achieve, we then need to establish what are going to be our critical success factors. So now that we um, now that we know why, what our goal is, what's going to make that, what needs to happen to make that successful? I mean, how do we get a win? All right. So now, once we understand what we're trying to do and what qualifies as a win, what do we need to do to get there? So how do we measure this? So where it just all comes down to a progression. So let's figure out what we want, what's going to classify this as a win. What do we need to measure to see if it's really a win or not? Let's collect the data and then let's do the calculations to see what the actual outcome was. All right, see, it flows down in the process, and using a systematic approach is, I found, the most effective. So let's talk about goals. I talk about this in just about every video, and I just can't stress this enough when I'm working with clients. You have to understand what you're measuring and why you're measuring it. You know, there's no purpose of just flying blind. You can be successful flying blind and flying off the seat of your pants. I mean, if anybody's ever seen the story of the guy who invented my pillow, that he kind of wings it on a lot of stuff according to him. And it's great. He's a success story, but he's not common. All right, over the last couple of years, I've probably worked with about 60, 70 home care companies and home care, home health, and ambulance services. Trying to build their businesses all across the country. As major clients, not on smaller individual. I'm talking about big year one projects, and this is something that I have seen over and over again. The people that come in without understanding their goals and objectives are the ones that struggle the most. All right. So these goals in this particular case, they got to be the big picture goals. Like for example, our goal will be to increase our sales or revenue by leveraging existing client relationships. I mean that's pretty much what our goal is for this example. So now that we understand what our goal is, we have to establish what are our critical success factors. So critical success factors are the focused activities that need to happen to make that goal a reality. These, when you're writing this stuff down, you got to begin with clear and concise action words, not feeling words, action verbs, okay? So you got to also combine these with measurable activities and specific time frames. So our goal in the example, our big picture is increase sales and revenue by working better with existing clients. So let's get more specific. What would be a win? A win would be to increase revenue by 20% over the next 12 months. All right, so let's keep this in mind to what we were going through before. Our big goal, increase revenue by leveraging existing clients. Let's be specific. What would make this a win? An increase of 20% of overall revenue over the next 12 months. So now that we understand that, we have to start drawing out what it is that's going to be a key performance indicator. What is going to tell us that we're working towards that goal, that we're making enough effort to try to hit that, you know, to hit those objectives. Like, so we have to understand something. Not all metrics are going to tell us how our business is doing and whether something is working or not. You know, the ones that do are going to be considered KPIs. So, for example, a KPI in this case, what is going to be a performance indicator is the ratio of the number of clients contacted to the number of increased hours or percent increased hours. That would be an example. Another good example is if we designate a specific goal. let's say we are dealing with 100 active clients over any given moment. So we we may want to say on a month-to-month basis, we want to assure that we are doing quality assurance and client satisfaction checks for 25% of our client base. So are we achieving that 25%? That's what we're going to measure. Those are examples of good KPIs. All right, so now that we understand our goal, we understand what's going to define the win, and we understand what we're going to measure, let's start actually collecting the measurements. These are raw numbers. This is data. That's all this is, and it's got to be data relevant to steps 1, 2, and 3. All right. If it's, we're not going to focus on increasing our revenue by leveraging existing clients by as much as 20% over the next year, and then go out and measure how many recruiting visits we've made. That just it has to be relevant. If it's not, then you're really wasting your time and you're just not understanding what KPIs are really about. If and your data is going to be skewed because you're going to be adding in or measuring things that have nothing to do with a specific process. So, and a good example is number of client contacts. So now that we understand our big picture goal, what makes a win, what are we measuring? One of the data sets we're going to measure are specifically number of client contacts, and then for our client set, what are the total service hours provided to that client or to that client set? All right, so now we get to the last step. We got to calculate what we've been measuring. All right, this is pretty straightforward. There's not much to this. You just have to make sure everything is measured within fixed time frames because that's going to be your constant. Your actual data sets are going to have a lot of variables in it, but if fixed periods of time are really going to be what sets your what makes everything valid. All right, so if we're going to measure it, in the example we've been using, we're going to calculate the difference of in the number of clients who increased the service hours after being contacted and versus those who did not. And again, time. We're defining this by time on a month-to-month basis over a period of 12 months. So all our data sets are going to run, like for example, you know, if you started collecting data in January of 2020, you're gonna you're gonna start from to until January of 2021, and you're just going to continually move this. This is what you're going to constantly look at for your data sets. So let's say you did start in January of 2019, and you want to look backwards. You should have a data set that runs month to month from January to January. And if you want to know where you are come February, then again, it'll go from February to February, March to March, and it just continuously moves forward so that you have comparable data and you can actually see your trends long term in your business. So, what does this all wrap up to? Listen, just keep in mind always what gets measured gets done. It's a lot easier to hold yourself and your team accountable if they understand what they are measuring and why. So you have to have clear goals. And these goals, in order to have those clear goals, you have to understand both the big picture, what's considered a win, and what needs to happen for you to get there. And the final thought on this is just please keep in mind all KPIs are metrics, but not all metrics are KPIs. What that means at its core is you can measure anything you want, but if it's not relevant to what your end objective is, then it becomes useless busy work. Make sure you always understand what your big goal is, what classifies that win, what needs to happen to get that win, and now what is the relevant data to get, to figure out if you're right. What adjustments would you need to make? All right, if you follow these steps and create proper KPIs, you will you'll have a better understanding of where your business is headed and what adjustments need to be made. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and leave us a comment below. Let us know. We monitor this channel, and just like any of our other social media sites, and we will answer your questions. Also, feel free to visit us on the web at thebrionasgroup.com, where we have a lot of good and interesting offers. We're going to link that below in the comment section. We're currently actually running a special on unlimited email questions for $549 for the year. So you can have access to us 24/7, 365. And this is only a limited time offer, so we can actually help walk you through a lot of this as long as you're willing to do it through email. All right. So thank you again. And once again, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe.